All right, let's talk about the no contact rule and the power of time. Now, if you're familiar with my work here on the YouTube channel, you probably have heard me talk about the no contact rule a lot. But one aspect of the no contact rule that we haven't really touched a lot on is time. How long should your no contact rule be? What does time do for you and your ex? And why potentially time is the most underrated aspect of the no contact rule, because often it just gets swept under the rug. Now, let's sort of sit back and define what a no contact rule is for the people who are new to our YouTube channel. So a lot of times you'll go to any of my other competitors' YouTube channels or go to their websites or purchase their programs, and you'll learn about the no contact rule. And the gist is pretty simple. It's this period of time where you ignore your ex, right? And there's a lot of different reasons for why you would want to ignore your ex. But really what we have learned and the way we teach the no contact rule is different. And you'll notice this among all of my peers. Every single person has their own version of how the no contact rule should go. But we think our version might be one of the best because it really puts the emphasis on yourself as opposed to your ex. So here is our official definition of the no contact rule. Simply put, the no contact rule refers to a period of time where you cut off all conceivable communication with an ex after a breakup. The intent of this tactic should not be used to make your ex miss you, but instead should be used to rebuild your own life so that you can outgrow your ex. By doing this, the no contact rule can have the added benefit of making an ex miss you. So here's the big thing that we learned. A lot of times, what matters more for people who try the no contact rule is the intent they're using that no contact rule for. 90% of people, women or men who are using a no contact rule, are using it simply to make an ex miss them. And we found that it almost always has the opposite effect if you actually go into a no contact rule or try to employ a no contact rule with that mindset, as opposed to a mindset where you're just literally trying to get over them, where that makes an ex miss you. So we noticed that intent matters a lot. But there's also some complications there because we also talk about time. How long should your no contact rule be? Well, here's something that we do talk about, but we haven't really discussed too much, and that's the time periods of no contact. We found that depending on your situation, there are 3 specific types of time frames you should be implementing. Now, I don't want to get into the details of what constitutes these specific time frames because that's not the ultimate point I'm trying to derive here. What I'm trying to derive is to show you these 3 time frames and actually show you what we have found to be the most successful time frame in an effort to win an ex back. So what are the 3 time frames? Simply put, there's a 21-day no contact rule, a 30-day no contact rule, and a 45-day no contact rule. Now, this is something I've never talked about before, and it's something I'm a little afraid to say because people will take it out of context. But here's what we found when interviewing our success stories. We have found that the most successful time frame of implementing a no contact rule is a 45-day no contact rule. Now, why? Why is a 45-day no contact rule considered to be the most successful no contact rule? Why don't we recommend it to everyone? Well, because everyone doesn't have the same situation. In some cases, a 45-day no contact rule might be too long. But when we just looked at our success stories, literally just sat down, and you can look at our interviews that we've done with success stories on this YouTube channel and see that a lot of them usually fail the no contact rule and have to restart it, or they just simply fell in love with all the work they were doing during no contact and extended it overall more than 45 days. But why? Why is it that 45 days is so effective? Well, we think it's because of time. Most of the time when people talk about the no contact rule, they're looking at it from the lens of what you are going to be doing with your time during that period of time. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, rebuild your life, or, focus on going on dates, or focus on upping your social media game. And that's good. We absolutely understand that there's this aspect of no contact that gives you more time to be successful. But what isn't really talked about is there's kind of two sides to that coin. You see, there's what you're doing with your time, but also what your ex is doing with their time. And that is half of the equation right there. What is the main point I'm trying to get at here? Well, if your ex is using their time wisely and they're the ones who broke up with you, then that means they're going to be doing everything they possibly can to be getting over you. But most of the time, that's not what exes do. You see, we think that the key to a no contact rule is by using your time wisely to enhance your chances of making an ex regret their ultimate decision. So one of the really interesting things that we've noticed about exes who go through breakups is, at its core, a breakup is nothing more than someone thinking that they can do better than you. In other words, it's the grass is greener syndrome at its core. So if you don't know what the grass is greener syndrome is, pretty simple. It's your ex dates you, thinks I can do better than you, and then they break up with you and tries to find someone better than you. And sometimes one of the smartest things that you can do is to let them go out and date other people. Because by then, guess what happens? They start realizing how good they had it with you. Now, this doesn't always work, but we have noticed that the more time that you give them to process these emotions, the more likely regret can come into play. There's also the avoidance factor. Real quick, I want to say that if you're new to this YouTube channel or you're trying to figure out what you should be doing to get your ex back and you're trying to learn if you even have a chance in your specific circumstance, probably the smartest thing for you to do is actually stop by our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, or take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz that can be found at exboyfriendrecovery.com. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, taking that free quiz is super easy to do. All you have to simply do is look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on the link you see there. It will take you directly to the quiz where you can fill it out and get an easy answer on what you should be doing going forward and overall what your chances look like in your specific situation. All right, so let's get you back to the video. Now, I don't want to get too technical here, especially when we're talking about attachment styles, but generally speaking, there are four main attachment styles: secure, avoidant, anxious, and fearful. Obviously, secure is the most holy grail type attachment style that you should be shooting for. But most of the time we find that our clients tend to be a little bit more anxious. In other words, they're the ones who derive a lot of their identity from relationships. And when that relationship kind of goes south, they're the ones who are likely to blow up their phone, beg for their ex back, act extremely desperate. Nat means going nuts at texting and doing all those types of behaviors. We've also noticed that conversely, exes, the people who broke up with that anxious attachment style person, tends to be avoidant, meaning they derive a lot of their sort of power from feeling independent. And there's nothing that turns off someone who feels or wants to feel independent more than someone just constantly pestering them. And then fearful attachment style is basically a combination of both anxious and avoidant. So here's what we've learned. A lot of times what we teach our clients to do is try to exhibit more secure behaviors. Try to be a little bit more secure with yourself when you're using your time during no contact rule. But one of the things that no one ever thinks about is how an ex is using their time. We have learned from studying avoidant attachment styles that oftentimes an avoidant attachment style person will not begin to miss you until they feel that you are completely over them. Only then do they give themselves permission to begin to miss you. It's this weird way of looking at things, I'll admit. But you'll see how this really relates to what we're talking here with regards to time and the no contact rule. One of the reasons we think a 45-day rule seems to be becoming more effective for our clients is because it gives an ex more time to literally sit there and think, wow, they're over me. Because if you really think about it, if your ex has an avoidant attachment style, and I am not a licensed psychologist, so I cannot make a determination on what your ex's attachment styles are, but let's just assume that your ex is avoidant attachment style. Then what would tell them that you are over them more than you simply ignoring every single reach out or never reaching out to them for 45 days straight and doing all of these things that make them think they're over you? Only then will they begin to miss you. Only then will they begin to regret the decision they made in breaking up with you. The problem is, a lot of our clients have a lot of trouble holding themselves back. So a couple of years ago, I was working with someone who had a very easy situation. I mean, I've gotten lots of couples back together over the course of my 10 years of doing this. We have hundreds of success stories, we have interviews. And sometimes when you get a client, you just know for a fact this is one of the easy situations. It was one of those situations where it was kind of on again, off again, which is usually an indicator to me that it's actually going to be easy to get them back. The hard part is keeping them. So I really did a good job, I think, of explaining to this person, your ex is a prime candidate. You are probably going to be in one of the easier situations, but that doesn't mean you can cut corners. That doesn't mean that you can sort of skip steps. I also explained the attachment style concept to her. And I said, look, I'm not a licensed psychologist, but I think you exhibit a lot of anxious tendencies, and that is turning your ex off. I think your ex tends to be an avoidant. Notice how every single time things begin to become more intimate on an emotional level, your ex just runs because they want their independence. So what I think you should do is try to exhibit more secure tendencies. That means find a way to catch yourself every time you're doing something anxious that your ex can see from afar on social media or through contacting them. So I recommended to her a 30-day no contact rule. She made it 5 days into no contact before she began reaching out to her ex and trying to get him to come back. She had a weak moment, and I explained to her this is completely normal. One of the reasons why we find the no contact rule can be less effective is if you break it multiple times. So it's okay if you mess up a couple of times, but you really need to get through this. So I told her, start over from the beginning. Do a 30-day no contact rule. That's a standard no contact rule. I'm not asking you to go the full 45 days that we find is most effective for a lot of our clients, but what you need to be doing is focusing a lot on yourself. Make sure that all of the attention is on you and not on him. So she made it 14 days before she broke the no contact rule again. Ultimately, by doing these types of behaviors, her ex didn't have enough time to feel that she had let him go, to feel that he had potentially lost her forever. And as a result, she couldn't get him back. So it's really easy to sit here and judge other people for failing a no contact rule until you're actually in it yourself. So I wasn't very hard on her, but I wish I had been because she had a really, really simple situation. It was a prime candidate for success. But the experience taught me one thing. How you use your time is a lot more important than how your ex is using their time. Because more often than not, your ex isn't getting special help. Your ex isn't going online looking for how do I get over a breakup. More often than not, they think they can get over you because they think they made a great decision in breaking up with you. The reality is, it's your job to prove to them that they're wrong in an indirect way. Now, how do you do that? Well, that's a question for another day. All right, so probably the number one thing that you should be considering doing right now is if you're going through a breakup and you're wondering what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back, or whether you should be using a no contact rule on your ex at all, is to stop by our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, and take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. It's a simple, free 2-minute quiz basically designed to tell you what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. And taking that quiz is very, very easy. Simply look in the description below this YouTube video and click the link you see there. It will take you directly to the quiz where you can get an answer and kind of get started on your journey. Also, if you do take that quiz, I send you a 4-day video course for free where I'm just basically covering the basics of, hey, this is where you should start. This is what you need to be considering. These are some of the successes we've seen in our program. It's a completely free video course, so you get that when you sign up as well. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. It really does help. I'll see you guys next time.